let's talk about a real writer, Wilson Harris. Cambridge University has now agreed with the Harris family to house Wilson Harris's books, his own personal library, and his papers, as well, and also to catalogue them and to make them available to anybody. But they will also digitize Harris's papers and
Make them
his
available
annotated his annotations of books, and give it to Guyana.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Great. That's great. You know, Denise was here. Denise
Harris. Yeah.
And Michael Mitchell.
Yes.
And they talked. And she added that personal touch too. You know, it felt so good even listening to Denise talk about her father.
Yes.
And then Michael knew him so well.
Yes.
Also.
Yeah. Yes.
It felt so good.
Yes, I when he was very ill, when he was ailing, I said, Wilson, can I just bring you to Warwick and get you a room, and the students will come and, kowtow to you. No, he is significant. There was a generation of writers, Wilson Harris, Sam Selvon, and others, right? Derek Walcott and so on, who were unfailingly generous to the next generation, which is myself and Fred Degar and Grace Nichols.
Meaning?
They will review your work. They will. The very first review of my collection, I don't want to talk about my work, but my collection, Slave Song, was done by Wilson Harris. Yes. They're generous and they encourage you to write. I remember Sam Selvon saying, don't forget there are things called Guggenheim Fellowships. Guggenheim Fellowship. They're always there to support you. Support, direct, help if necessary, in terms of advice. Sam Selvon told me something that I took to heart. He said, we were in a pub having a beer just before he died, many, many years ago, and he said to me, David, don't ever throw away anything that you write, even at the back of it, or anything you scribble. He said that might have some value, not just in terms of money, but in terms of anybody studying West Indian literature. They'll see your scribbles, they'll see whatever version you did and how you cleaned it up and how you changed it, and that may affect the way they read the finished product, and so on. So I keep every scrap. My house is a garbage tip. And Sam told me that always keep your writing, the records of your writing and the actual writing itself.
Well, of course. Let's go back to the critics. You keep getting away from talking about yourself, but I want to hear a bit more about you. All you've been talking so often about your books. There are about 4 books now on your work.
6.
Published. 6. Sorry, I'm selling you short.
I sustain a literary critical industry.
Well, look at that. That's another industry by itself.
Yes.
That's good. That's good for it. I mean, why do we have the critics along? Talk about why we should have the critics along with the work.
Well, first of all, I am privileged, and I don't mean this just to be polite.
I'm pulling you out here. Yeah,
I'm privileged and honored that people have taken my work in academics to such an extent, taken in my work to such an extent that they write long articles and edit books and so on the writing. I think it was Matthew Arnold who said that critics are failed writers, which is terrible, really. Which
they say the same thing with coaches, cricket coaches.
No, critics are, I suppose, the best critics. T.S. Eliot are also the best writers. Forget that for the moment. Like if you read Shelley's, let's get back to it. The best critics are the best writers are also the best critics. Shelley's essays and poetry, Eliot's work on modern literature, and so on, right? But nevertheless, if a critic is not a writer, that critic has can shine a light through his or her intellect and imagination into the work, which, as we said earlier, may not be even illuminated to the writer himself or herself. So the critic has a role in a sense in mediating between the text and the reader. Um, one of the quarrels I have with not quarrels. One of the things that make me uneasy about certain forms of literary criticism is that it's unreadable. It's full of jargon and theoretical postulations that are complex, unnecessarily complex, and jargon laden. You know.
They fail to do the work justice.
Well, it's
and
if you write, you must write clearly, and you must write with people in mind. So, of course, you can talk about theory, and you can talk about Descartes, you can talk about Derrida and postmodernism and so
formulation.
on. Yeah, but try to not impress the reader
with what you know.
Yeah, with what you know. You're talking about the text. Let the text speak through you with a certain clarity, so that the reader can understand. In fact, one of the reasons I was glad to take early retirement from Warwick and move to Cambridge is that I think Cambridge has a much more. I think the Cambridge critics have a much more understanding and feeling for the text, whereas other critics just use the text as a kind of trampoline to show off their theoretical credentials, right? You know, I'm not being harsh. I'm just saying a few critics, most critics that I know,
of course, yeah,
they serve the text very well. So basically, without the critics, I mean, I'm grateful for the critics, yeah, and not just me. Any writer will tell you that, you know, and many writers have friends who are critics.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of talk about reparation, and now there is a move. Well, has been instituted by Cambridge University, Amina Ghafoor, etc., to do with indentureship.
I'm back at Cambridge now as a fellow, and so I worked very closely with Cambridge and with the Amina Ghafoor Institute. I direct the Amina Ghafoor Institute, the Institute for the Study of Indentureship and its Legacies, to come together with Cambridge to create visiting fellowships in indentureship studies. The next visiting fellow will be Professor Uma Mistry, who lives and teaches in Africa at the University of Western Cape. She's just retired. She's a professional historian. No, she was born in South Africa and has been teaching in South Africa and has just written a book on Mahatma Gandhi. Now, who is Uma Mistry? She's Mahatma Gandhi's great-granddaughter. Mahatma Gandhi's great-granddaughter. Mahatma Gandhi was instrumental in the abolition of indentureship in 1917. So it's great to have Mahatma Gandhi's great-granddaughter taking up a visiting fellowship in indentureship studies next year.
Wow. You're moving apace. Let's go back to Mark Tombridge's manuscript. In that manuscript, you must have seen references to a lot of Guyanese, Chinese writers.
Yes, and he talks about Janice Lowe, Shineborn, my friend, right?
Yeah.
And who wrote a novel the other day, a very dense poetic novel called The Last Ship. And so she's also been trying to bring to the fore the Chinese presence and aspects of Chinese culture that we don't know. And the more that is done, I mean, the richer that we all are.
Really, yes, it's open to us, to read.
There is a biotech company led by the CEO is Niven Narayan, and it's a big biotech company using artificial intelligence to create pharmaceuticals in America. Big. They want to set up in Guyana. So I went to see them. I met them in London and so on. They said, what you have in Guyana is richer than oil and more permanent than oil. So I was bemused. So I said, how? He said, you have in Guyana, and they're talking as scientists, they take your sample and they check your DNA and they do all of that complex scientific things so as to create new medicines for cancer, for other diseases. They said to me, What you have, you don't know. You have 6 ethnic groups living together in an enclosed space for hundreds of years, some of them intermarrying. And he said that is a treasure in terms of science.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're not going anywhere else. They're not going to China or India. They want to come here, right? Because they see.
They're
I mean, in
hoping to
Guyana,
see
we
the
see
possibilities.
well, we see sometimes in Guyana negatively. We see ethnicities in terms of tribalisms and hostilities. They see it in terms of science. That you are so rich to have 6 ethnic groups living in your country. And you know, this is important as well in terms financially, because we can eventually use that AI skills, biotech skills, to create a new industry, pharmaceutical industry, to serve Guyana and also our region. I'm excited by this, and the CEO is a Guyanese,
Wow.
Dr. Nivin Narain, brilliant young scholar, biologist.
Talking about AI, there was one of the Guyana Prize winner in the youth category, Samir Mohammed.
Uh-huh.
He won both prizes in the fiction and poetry. And I asked him, well, he's into science, and I asked him the question about AI writing books. What's going to happen to the writers? And it's interesting. He said, I've done comparison, right? I fed that some information, and I've produced my book. And then I fed it, and it's good, it's brilliant, it's clean, it's perfect, but something is missing. What do you think about
The flaws that are inevitable in any imaginative venture, it's the flaws that matter. It's that, you see, it's like Derek Walcott said about a vase, the perfection of a
Yes, the
vase in his Nobel Prize speech. He said it's not until you break that vase and you have to put it together that you realize how it's constructed, how precious it is, right? So it's the cracks in the vase that make the vase a work of art. So, I mean, I'm sure a robot can easily replace me, right? But there's certain writers who cannot be. How can a robot come up with a line from Shakespeare? Never, never. So we don't have to worry about robots taking over writing. Though some cynics say maybe the robots can write better than many of our writers. But no, I don't think you'll have a robot doing Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. You know?
Yeah, wow, wow.
Until the robots become intelligent and conscious, in which case you will not be around. They'll kill you right away.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you for bringing a new gift to Guyana, and I like the transformation of seeing Guyana through Chinese eye in your new novel. I like that movement, and I'm hoping to read that.
Thank you, Petamber.
Thank you with that and your writing.
Thank you.
You've
Thank
been
you,
a great help, and to Guyana, and to me personally. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.